Greetings and welcome to Eye Care Leadership Live. This is the podcast for eye care leaders who want to level up their leadership, create better cultures, and improve the financial results of their clinics. Now, let's join the show. Welcome to Eye Care Leadership Live. My guest today is Carl White. Carl is the founder and chief consultant with Market Advisory Group. And you guys do marketing for private practices.
That's correct. Yes, all day long.
All day, every day?
Pretty much.
Well, that's important.
Trying to find more or supporting the ones that we have.
And that's important. And I looked at your website, and the first thing you see when you look at your website is helping private practices stay private.
Yep.
Which I love. Because, I feel the same way. I was actually on a run this morning thinking about how important that is. And that's a very definitive statement. So how did you get to the point where you wanted to say, hey, that's part of what I want to do?
I think it took me just about 4 or 5 years to find the wording. You launch a business, and if you're thinking about it, you're thinking, why am I doing this? What's the mission? And in marketing, it's common to say, we want to do better marketing than everybody else, which to me, I don't know, it just took me a while off and on. And then one day it just hit me. That's what they want. And care is better when the provider of care owns the practice, because no matter what decisions got to get made, business, clinical, whatever, the people who are making those decisions have to turn right around and take care of a patient. And so I say, therefore, we can feel quite confident that the needs of the patient are weighing in, appropriately considered, no matter the decision. Is that right or wrong always? I don't know. But compared to other owners who either don't care about patient care, which I'm sure is not often, or just, you're not steeped in it, so you don't know. You're making a decision about X, and you're not aware of the ripple, through to patient care. No doctor owner can say that, because in 15 minutes, they got to go see a patient. So it's hard to, to me, that's the big deal.
Yeah. Well, we've all been a patient, right? We've all been there, and we know what that's like to feel like a number. We've all had those stories. So my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
And the way that you go about doing that is through marketing services.
Yep. That's the main, we do that with marketing. So how do you compete when you're competing with whoever your competition is, whether it's a bunch of other private practices? That's uncommon that it's only that. It's common that there's larger resource-backed, whether it's private equity, it's hospital or health system-based. You as a private practice owner have advantages because you're privately owned. It's just not always apparent what that is. And we want to help you. We want to help you stay private, because for the reasons that I just said, it really is a cause. I really do believe that. And it's just fun to level the playing field, because on a level playing field, private guy's going to win, I think, more often than not.
Yeah, they have more resources and maybe more MBAs and
but also more bureaucracy, harder to make decisions. I worked a lot. I worked for 20 years in large corporate America, large enough. And even though, you could look from the outside looking in and going, they've got more money than God, they're going to crush us. Not so fast. It takes 9 months to make a decision. And they are far removed from the daily realities, but you are not. And so it is true, their budget dwarfs yours, or it seems like it does. It's not always true. It's harder. It takes more to explain that. Doesn't mean they can move faster. Doesn't mean they can be nimble. They've got all sorts of rules and internal stuff that they've got to follow. Let them do what they want to do, because let them buy every billboard in town. You don't need any. That's what they're going to do. And with some stupid 6-word vague message, like, we care for you. Duh, you're supposed to care for me. What didn't I already know? Nice spend. You don't have to do that as a privately owned practice. There's things you can do you can move faster. You can move more nimbly. You know how to speak to patients better because you're doing it all day long, not the marketing people in the 5th floor of the whatever office. You know what I mean? So Don't undersell yourself. You've got some advantages.
This is going in some interesting directions that I
I
wasn't.
get
And
going. Yeah.
I mean, this is brand positioning right here. We're talking about positioning yourself from, you know, at the very core, most core level of what
Yeah.
you do and how you connect with patients, and positioning yourself as having a competitive advantage because you understand your patients, and
Yeah.
you can do things to care for them that you might not get from,
Mhm.
the big box
Right.
care chains.
Correct. There's value in that. You just have to tease it out, bring it to the surface, and promote it over and over again forever. That's what it
Yeah.
takes, just like they try to do. But here's one example. They inevitably double book, right? More often than, well, you don't have to, do you?
Yeah.
You don't have to give a standard 9 minutes no matter what type of, circumstance walks in the door. They kind of do. And it seeps through. And if you can say that in sort of, short and promotional friendly ways, not inauthentic, but you know what I mean? You can't take a paragraph to explain this. It's just something they cannot do that you can. And it matters. It can matter.
I love that, man. Well, we could go down that whole rabbit hole, but we did have kind of a different.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
I love that. I love that line of conversation. I just love brand positioning, and I love the differentiation between independent and corporate. And
Yeah.
we serve similar minded types of physicians, so that's obviously of interest to me. But our plan today here was to talk about marketing, and talk about HIPAA as well as it relates to marketing, because that kind of ties in. And I have kind of a nightmare story that I could tell about that, but we can save that for for later if it needs to. But let's say that I'm a physician, or maybe I'm a practice administrator, and I'm trying to grow my practice. And I talk to ophthalmology clinics most often, and a lot of times they're trying to grow their elective procedure, their count, right? So we want to do more, premium lenses and LASIK and all that stuff. And how do we promote that? Because we make more money on that, and we're helping people. And so when you mentioned to me that there's a HIPAA angle to this. I was like, okay, I kind of get that, but where does HIPAA come into play? If I'm thinking about growing my practice.
So every practice owner, every practice administrator knows HIPAA, obviously, and that you can only share protected health information with those who are authorized to get it, and then they have to say, and I'm only going to use it for the minimum amount necessary to do the job I'm telling you I'm going to do for you. Well, that extends to marketing, just like it does anything else. But what I've learned is that there just seems to be a blind spot. Nobody rejects it, but marketing agencies can be exposed to protected health information just like anybody else can. The easiest example is this. You have most likely a contact form on your website. Contact us page. Contact us. Give us your name and your phone number and your email. Tell us what's the matter. Well, even without the tell us what's the matter, if you've got enough contact information, you've got some protected health information. And anybody who can see it, me with our clients, the website guy who maintains the website, they have now been exposed to protected health information, and you can only do that in a HIPAA compliant way. And so whoever's exposed to it, you've got to get under your umbrella or get under an umbrella. None of my clients had what's called a business associate agreement. So there's like a legal part to HIPAA. There's got to be this business associate agreement, which is a legal contract essentially in place. It can come from you to me or vice versa. I had one created because none of my clients had it. And so we give it to them, they sign it immediately, and then off you go. And that's, this is something I highly recommend every listener who's a practice owner or an administrator. Just when you're done listening to this, just ask yourself, do we have a HIPAA compliant relationship with the people who are doing our marketing, whoever they may be? And if the answer is no, or I'm not sure, I urge you to have a look at that and just decide what you want to do. You should become HIPAA compliant and just decide what you want to do. Nobody hires a marketing agency to become compliant. You hire to grow, but you must do so in a HIPAA compliant way. It's just another box you got to check because you're in healthcare. Same with us. It just has to be done. And then we can put that in place, and then off we go. We just do all the sorts of the same things.
This is not an area I'm an expert, and that's why you're here. Why, does that, like, let's say I work with a website designer, and I'm capturing the data that you described, name, email, and all that. And maybe even like, hey, what procedures are you interested in?
Yeah. What's the matter with you today? And you get paragraphs of detail, which is health history.
Your health history. Yeah.
That's right.
So does the IT person or the web designer, do they have to do like HIPAA training and stuff? Or do they just need to understand that this is confidential information and that realize that they're liable?
So they've got to sign this BAA, Business Associate Agreement, part of which is going to say, and you, the third-party vendor, have done all the stuff you're supposed to do according to HIPAA that says that allows you to sign this document with authenticity. Because part of what it's asking is, are you up to snuff on HIPAA?
Yeah.
And that's up to you to do that. The other way to do it, like just to keep going with the website, is you could use a way to capture information that the website people cannot see. So there's other ways to do it. There's standard old forms. They're very basic and simple, but they're very exposable. But there's other ways to do it. It could be a secure form that they can't see, or other ways. It's another option. And then you don't have, as long as they're not exposed to the PHI, there's no need. Then they can't see anything. They can't see it. So there's no BA. You don't need them to be HIPAA compliant because you have made sure that they're not exposed to anything. It's another way to go.
Is that a method that is a completely viable method for gathering, let's just call it leads or prospects for a healthcare clinic that does elective procedures? Is that something you would even recommend, is have a box on the website that says, hey, are you interested in blepharoplasty today? Yeah.
So you're right. So, okay. So let's go to the second part. The original part of your question is, how do I grow elective procedures?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of it as that procedure satisfies a need, just like your core procedures do, right? So somebody comes to you because their vision is blurry. The box of, do I need this or not, has already been checked. My vision is blurry. I need to get it addressed in one way or another. But the elective is optional. So what's the need that it satisfies? Who's it for? Just like any other product or service. Who's it for? Why would they choose it from you? What are their alternatives? And you've got to, sell them on it. Not like salesy, but I'll give you an example. I wear a night guard, and my dentist had been sort of telling me about, look, man, that tooth for probably 5 or 6 years. And I finally said yes when he showed him an image of my tooth, and he said, we can't wait any longer. Like, you're there. And I said, okay. And I couldn't argue with the image, but he made the need very clear. My other option was do nothing. And, a cracked tooth was not far down the road from me. So I find, at least when I put together the stories I hear of, we've got this elective procedure and whatever it is, but nobody's choosing it. We're frustrated and everything else. I just come back to the same set of questions I just said here. And are you really going through that process? And you're asking somebody to pay out of pocket, which is not a small number, probably. Just like you, Dr. X, if you're going to drop that kind of money on something that you hadn't thought of before the salesperson, so to speak, brought it up to you, you want some convincing, right? Why do I need this? Why do I need it now? Is this my only option? What happens if I don't? It's just the thought process most people are going to want to go through.
And this is not, let's be honest here. It is not normal for a physician to be good at and understand how to take someone through the sales process. I'm an HR person. I have my own business. It is not normal for me to be able to do that. And if I'm a doctor, it's the same thing. How do you get a physician to get good at that?
Well, you can't get rid of practice, I would say. But what I do, because I was in sales for 10 years in a different industry, and really there were two things that became clear to me pretty quickly that I chose not to say out loud because I don't think my sales managers would have liked it. The first one is, I cannot control the yes or no answer. That's up to the patient. The second one is I'm not selling per se. I am explaining and I'm presenting options. So the widget that I was selling was one of a few options that they could have chosen, my widget or the competitor's widgets. And my job was, I want to help you understand why my widget is a great choice. Is it the only choice? No, that's your call. But I want to help you understand why I think this really fits. And if I thought it was a bad fit, I would just stop. Because I'm like, you know what? I know this is a bad fit. Why try to get to this person to realize it's the same thing, which I think they're going to do anyway. Let me just go find more people for who I think this widget's a great fit. And then they're going to decide what they want to do. It's much more authentic. It's helping them make the decision they have to make anyway. And then, it didn't take long to present the widget. It took more time, not so much for, here's another thing why it can be frustrating. So I sit down, in your chair or in your office, and you tell me something I need that I never thought of before.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost $3,000 or $4,000. I probably have a bunch of questions, but because I didn't know that this was coming, I'm not even sure what my questions are. So do you want to schedule that? I don't know, maybe. And it comes across as, I think you did a bad job, but I think most of it is, I don't know yet. I don't know. I haven't done my research. I haven't thought it through. I don't really know. So one tactical thing you can do is start putting together lists of questions that patients commonly ask, and don't wait for them to ask them. So there's the frequently asked questions, but those are questions people already know to ask. Add a second group, which is called should ask questions. All the questions you should ask that every other patient asks, but you just haven't thought to ask them that because I just sprung this on you.
Right.
I
love that. Yeah.
The sales process of really it's the patient getting comfortable through an understanding of what this means to them and all that entails. So if that means, I'd like to have a follow-up meeting with you. I'm going to tell you about this today. I recommend procedure X. Here's a whole bunch of questions. I'd like to schedule. I really think this is important for you. Can we have 15 minutes in a couple of weeks or whatever? All we're going to do is talk, research it, come back, and just look, tell me if you want to do it or not. But I want to make sure you really understand what you're getting into.
Yeah. And this is, I know at least in ophthalmology, and this is probably the case in other specialties, it certainly was in dermatology also, but it's often a whole job for a non-physician, non-provider to consult with the patient on what their options are and to sort of do some of this answering questions and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if you think about it, this procedure is presented to me. I come in and do the exam. Well, you need new glasses. Great. That is already commonly understood. In this case, I already have glasses. I don't have any questions. I know the whole thing. I'm going to wear a new set of glasses. That's going to make my vision work better. I'm going to see better. That's been true for hundreds of years. Like, I know this.
Right.
What questions do you have? How fast can you go? None.
Yeah.
None. Because I already know everything. This new thing, well, we actually need to do this.
Right.
Oh, never heard of that. And
Yeah.
so Dr. X, the listener, just acknowledge that how quickly I said yes to glasses is going to be different than how quickly I say, which I know very well and intimately, should not be the same as how quickly you want me to say yes to this new procedure that I never heard of, never thought of before. Everything's different. It's a different learning curve.
Yeah. Okay. So there's like an education thing. This show is sponsored by Seasoned Advice HR Services, where I help eye care businesses to make more money and save more money by hiring better, retaining better, and reducing your HR risk. If you would like an HR assessment or ongoing HR support, please reach out to me at seasoned-advice.com. My mind is kind of going back to the HIPAA side of things because, so, we talked about the intake, right? You might be taking in information from patients, and how you handle that is very important. But sometimes, and this is an area, I don't know, you can tell me how this works, but sometimes you want to send out information. That's the marketing stuff, right? Can you even do that? And how, like, if I want to send an email or even, God forbid, call someone, hey, you're on a phone call list here. Would you be interested in,
Yeah.
this or that. Is that something that practices should be engaging in? And what do you have to do to be able to reach out in that way to patients?
So if you've got the HIPAA compliant relationship set up, let's take a simple one like an email campaign, for example. We're doing this with a couple of our clients right now. One in particular, they're a pediatrics practice, and what does every family do? They schedule their kid's annual exam over the summer when school's out. And what happens? The schedule just it's a scheduling nightmare because way too many people want way too few time slots. So we've been sending out simple emails. Hey, get ahead of the game, schedule now. Check the portal to see if it's been 12 months and schedule. There's so many more time slots available now. And it's chipping away at it. We've got HIPAA set up, HIPAA compliant email. So in that sense, it's just like any other communication. There's nothing special to set up from a HIPAA standpoint at that point. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have to get some special magic permission documents?
You do need permission to email, which, and the best way to do that is on your new patient policies when they're signing up. Just, we have permission. You give us permission to email you. I forget, I'm not totally certain on the language, but for promotional purposes, and that's sort of a condition. And then you can do that. And by the way, every sort of marketing email that goes out has to have a link to unsubscribe, which all commercial third party, like Constant Contact, they all have that. So that's easy. That's just sort of a standard template. But yeah, and any business, this isn't specific to healthcare, any business that says, that wants to start sending you promo emails every once in a while is supposed to get your permission to do so. So, yeah.
Is there a different approach? Let's say that's a great example that you just gave. I mean, I can relate to that. I have a child and I know exactly what you're talking about. In fact, his pediatrician has said, hey, we have expanded hours. We can do late night. We can do weekend, and probably to deal with the same thing you're talking about of this influx. Yeah. But let's say you're not just communicating about like a medical appointment. Let's say you're communicating about like elective, stuff. If I'm trying to grow that, how would that communication maybe look different than, I don't know, do you come in for your checkup kind of a thing?
I mean, sure. So what I see, because I get some of these too as a patient of a variety of practices, and they're all glossy and gorgeous about what it is. And maybe there's some sort of, spring promotional special or whatever. Yeah. And I stare at it and I go, and I read it more carefully because of what I do. And what I'm looking for is, does this service even apply to me? Like, am I clinically appropriate? Am I a clinical candidate for this? And can't tell you because it's never in there. So what I would urge every listener to do is phrase it how you like, but it's essentially, if you're, take ophthalmology, if you have symptoms that look like this, blah, 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 we've got a new service that we'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Schedule a call for a consult, and, we'll take it from there. That's not what I would say. And so the call to action is the consult, not the sign up for the service. They're not ready for that yet.
Okay.
Just like if I were sitting in your office and you're evaluating me, just like we talked about a minute or two ago, and you say, boy, you're a candidate for this other service as well. You wouldn't just pop that on me. Hey, Carl, good to see you again. You want to get this new service? What do you mean? You haven't even looked at me, right? So
we got to get to the money part, Carl.
Right,
we got to.
right. Before that, just 60 seconds on, if you look like this, you might be a candidate for that. Call us, come in for an eval, and we'll tell you.
That makes total sense, and that's the kind of thing that
basic, but don't skip it.
A non-marketing person wouldn't even think about. They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking, gosh, I've got this cool device here and it can do all this procedure. It can do all these cool things. There's certainly people that want that. Let me just tell them the price and where to get it. And then, hey, don't you want this?
They'd be idiots not to sign up. Well, they're not idiots. They just don't know if it applies to them.
Yeah. So much of marketing and growing your practice is really just thinking about how you communicate from the perspective of the person that you're talking to, right? Like what mindset are they at, right? I mean, would you agree that's just getting inside their head is so key?
Yes, it totally is. I mean, in this sense, it's the indication. Every procedure, every medication has a clinical indication. It's the same thing. Are you in the email? Are you indicated for this? You're not going to use that link, but it's the same thing. Does this apply to you or not? Yeah, basic. I mean, you can get very, very promotional in your look and feel. Fine, I guess. But if you skip over who you're talking to, and when it comes to healthcare and medical and dental, we have this set of services. Do they even apply to you, and why? How would you tell?
Yeah.
In simple, understandable language. And if this sounds like you, call us and we'll get you in, and then we'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's not rocket science, but it's easy to miss. You're right. It's easy to miss. We're all in our day-to-day, all day, and it can be just like I said before, patient comes in with blurry vision. You forget, well, the whole clinical indication box was checked. They know it and you know it. This is different on elective stuff.
I'm wondering, I see so many ads for pharmaceuticals, and that we all see all these ads. You must look at those with a very, God,
I tune them out. There's so many of them, but yeah, but they go through. I mean, they do it in a very with music and whatever and the whole thing, but they get at, does this apply to you? Does this look like you? Put the side effects aside, but if this looks like you, this is for you. Call your doctor. There's the call. The call to action is not go to Walgreens and go get some.
Yeah.
It's call your doctor, right? That's the go in and see if this really, your doctor will tell you.
What is there a example that you have of, we started talking about HIPAA a little bit and how this how you have to be careful. And you talked about how it's very common to not have business associate agreements. Is there like sort of a cautionary tale maybe, or where these things have gone wrong that maybe you could give an example?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, so if you Google HIPAA violation, seriously, HIPAA violation, trying to think what I would say, judgments.
Wow.
You'll rapidly get to a website page on the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm not sure that's the exact search because I can tell you're trying to check it out, where they have an ongoing list of judgments. And there's two categories. Most of them are data was lost or stolen.
Okay.
But occasionally you'll find one, like I'm thinking of one, I can't remember the specifics, where it was a 6-figure judgment penalty because they simply didn't have the business associate agreements in place. No data was lost or stolen, but auditors showed up and they were not HIPAA compliant, because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what else you have. You need that too. So go look at that and you will see. And, think about the number of practices out there versus the number of judgments. It's tiny. So roll the dice if you like, Dr. X, but why? Why would you want to do that? I don't want to do that. And it's not like we don't upcharge because we have HIPAA. No, that's the cost of doing business. I'm in healthcare.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But they're there and they're, man, oh man. I mean, here's the thing. So here's the thing about the judgments. So you see a money judgment. This practice had to pay this amount, that practice had to pay. Here's what they don't tell you, though. It's a lot more painful than the money. You are most likely, if data is lost or stolen in your practice, you are probably going to have to tell all your patients about that. Good luck holding on to them. Your reputation is hammered. You are going to have to drop most everything else you're doing to deal with this. So a further problem, and it's going to be painful. It's just going to be painful. So you'll pay you'd love to pay that and have everything else just stay hidden and go away. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It does not work that way. You do not want this.
Yeah.
And even though say it's a 1 in a million chance, that pain is going to be severe. Why do you want to play with that?
I have seen that from the inside, and it wasn't a fun experience.
No,
to have to have to tell your patients that there was a breach, to have to engage with a lawyer, to
we may have lost your data. Maybe you know what to me the
yes.
the most angering part is. Your data may have been compromised. You don't even know if my specific data was
Yeah.
compromised. Really? They have like you. Wow.
Yeah, that's not very a
I mean,
comforting thing to hear.
yeah, I'd rather hear, but we saved yours, or sorry, we know yours
Yeah,
was.
yours we got,
Man,
everyone else we lost, but
yeah.
yours we know is okay.
On
Yeah.
top of how poorly we protected your data because it got lost or stolen.
Yeah.
The way we hold on to your data, we can't even tell if you specifically got compromised.
Mm.
Damn.
Man.
I'm looking elsewhere.
Oh man. Sometimes healthcare practices will enlist their employees to help them create social media marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you are a fan of? Do
Yeah.
you see that done well? What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on all that?
Because they're right there. I mean, a lot of social in particular, it's local. And, for us, for example, we do a fair amount of social, but we're not on site, and they are.
Yeah.
And so good videos, as long as you protect privacy and HIPAA and everything else, videos of people, hey, what a great day. This person had a birthday, all these great personable, really personalized. They're awesome. With every once in a while, a prospective client will say, we do this. Is that okay? I'm like, more the merrier. Yeah.
So would you say that content, I hear you talking about the personal side, like talking about employees and stuff. Is it more important to do that stuff or to say, hey, our doctors are the best doctors. They're so smart. They've had so much experience and that kind of thing? Or is that authenticity and that humanity kind of more where you want to go?
So to me, when the thrust of promoting like a medical practice for us is educational. So through good education, you will demonstrate your authority rather than, celebrating how smart you are. You're supposed to be smart. If you are on the bleeding edge because of research you do or awards you win, yeah, let's celebrate those. But as why you should choose me because I have a lot of awards. Does that mean your hand is steady or I don't what's the translate? And it never is. But so you should be authoritative in your field and personable, approachable, like a 3D person, And so we do a lot with the educational side. And then any practice says, you mind if we do this other stuff all day long? Because you put the two together, It's really powerful. Huh. A smart person I can trust who's approachable. Okay. Welcome to being a good doctor,
I love that. Well, I could just talk to you much longer, Carl. I love marketing because it is all about, we have these private practices that they can do so many great things, and it's a great place to get care. And we just need to help them tell the world about it. And the same thing also applies, to a workplace, which is kind of more my domain. And we want to let people know what it's like to work here, And so really it's all about communicating to others about the value of private practice, independent practice. And I appreciate the work that you're doing in that space.
Thank you. Yeah. For both of us, it's what do you say and how do you say it?
Yeah.
Easy to say, but more to do. So, but yes, totally agree.
So how can if people want to learn more about Market Advisory Group and they want to learn how to promote their clinic, how can they get in touch with you?
So our website's the best, marketadvisorygroup.com. It's a lot, I know. Ironic.
I'll put the link in the show.
Yeah, thank you. Put the link there. There's on many pages, there's a link to schedule a call. That's the most direct way. I'll ask, subscribe to Practice Care. So you can have two podcasts, Mike's and mine. Practice Care it's for the business side of private practice. You'll be a guest on in a couple of weeks. That's far from only not a marketing. It's the business side is vast. We try to tackle as much as we can. So subscribe to that. Good way to get bite-sized advice on a whole bunch of topics. But we'd love to help you out. If you want to stay private, and you feel like your marketing is even a little bit or you're wondering about it, schedule a call. We'll talk. We'll see if it's a fit. You're not paying money or signing up for anything. Love to see if we can help.
Love it. Well, there you go. You nailed your messaging right there. If you fit in this category, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely reproduce that for my own purposes there. But yeah, thanks so much, Carl, for joining me on the show. And I'm looking forward to appearing on Practice Care as well.
Same. Yeah, same. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, that brings this episode of iCare Leadership Live to a conclusion. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and share it with someone who would value the content. I promise to bring you more guests and content to help make you a better iCare clinical leader. I also invite you to subscribe to my HR newsletter for iCare leaders. You can find information about that at seasoned-advice.com. Now go out there and lead with confidence.